My daughter was rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, the police took me to an empty room and told me to peek inside discreetly. As I peeked in, my body couldn't stop shaking. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. Danielle Rowland had always believed that love lived in the details. The way you remembered someone's favorite mug, the angle at which you folded their clean laundry, the small gestures that said, "I see you," without needing words. For 13 years, she had loved Maya through those details. Apple slices, never grapes, because Maya hated the way grape skins stuck between her teeth. Notes tucked into her backpack on test days, folded twice so they'd fit perfectly in the front pocket. The bedroom light left on at exactly 40% brightness because full dark made Maya anxious, but full light kept her awake. Danielle never forgot. That was who she was. That Tuesday morning in October started like any other. The alarm went off at 6:15. Danielle showered quickly, dressed in her usual work uniform of dark jeans and a button-down shirt, and moved through their modest ranch house with the quiet efficiency of someone who had perfected the same routine for years. The house sat on the edge of Asheville, North Carolina, close enough to the mountains that on clear mornings you could see them rising in the distance, blue and constant. She stepped into the kitchen and stopped. Trevor stood at the counter, his back to her, assembling Maya's lunch. He moved with deliberate care, layering a sandwich, sealing a container, zipping the insulated bag. "I've got it today," he said without turning around. Danielle stayed in the doorway, her hand still on the frame. Trevor rarely helped with school mornings. He was a man of routines too, but his routines revolved around his own schedule. Gym at 5:30, coffee at 6:45, out the door by 7:20. Maya's lunch had always been Danielle's territory, the same way Trevor handled the trash and the yard work. They had divided their lives into neat sections years ago. "You sure?" Danielle asked. "I'm already doing it." His tone was flat, neither kind nor unkind. Just factual. Danielle glanced at the clock. She was running late. A client meeting at 8:30 that she couldn't miss. She worked as an office manager for a small accounting firm, and this client had been threatening to leave for months. Her boss had made it clear, be on time, be prepared, or start looking for a new job. "Okay," she said. "Thank you." Trevor didn't respond. He finished zipping the lunch bag and set it on the counter near Maya's backpack. Then he poured himself coffee and walked past Danielle toward the living room, his shoulder nearly brushing hers as he went. Danielle stood there for a moment longer, feeling something she couldn't quite name. Unease, maybe, or just the strange discomfort of watching someone else perform a task that had always been hers. She shook it off and went to wake Maya. Her daughter's room smelled like lavender body spray and old paperbacks. Maya was already awake, sitting up in bed with her phone, her dark hair tangled around her shoulders. "Morning, sweetheart," Danielle said. "Morning." Maya didn't look up. "Dad made your lunch today." That got her attention. Maya's eyes lifted, surprised. "Really? Really? That's weird." Danielle smiled despite herself. "A little, but nice, right?" Maya shrugged and went back to her phone. At 13, she was in that strange space between childhood and something else. Still young enough to need her mother, old enough to resent needing her. Danielle had learned to navigate this territory carefully, offering closeness without crowding. "Bus comes in 20 minutes, Danielle said. "Don't forget your science project." "I won't." Danielle left her to get dressed and returned to the kitchen. Trevor had already gone. His coffee mug sat in the sink, still half full. The lunch bag waited on the counter. Danielle picked it up, feeling its weight. She had an impulse to open it, to check what Trevor had packed, but she stopped herself. That would be invasive, controlling, the kind of thing Trevor had accused her of before. She set the bag back down and grabbed her own keys. The drive to work took 35 minutes. Danielle spent most of it thinking about the client meeting, rehearsing her talking points, imagining worst-case scenarios. She didn't think about Trevor or the lunch or the strange flatness in his voice. Years later, she would remember this moment with excruciating clarity. The exact angle of morning light through her windshield. The song playing on the radio, something old, something she didn't recognize. The way she had almost turned back, almost called Maya to say, "I love you" one more time. But she didn't. She drove to work. She sat through the meeting. She smiled and nodded and took notes and saved the account. At 4:42 p.m., her phone rang. The number on the screen was unfamiliar. Local area code. Danielle answered it, standing in the office break room, her free hand wrapped around a mug of tea that had gone cold. "Is this Danielle Rowland?" A woman's voice, professional but strained. "Yes. This is Patricia Mills from Mountain View Middle School. I'm calling about Maya." Danielle's stomach dropped. She set the mug down too hard. Tea sloshed over the rim. "What happened?" "Maya collapsed during 7th period. She's conscious but disoriented. An ambulance is taking her to Mission Hospital right now." The world seemed to tilt. Danielle gripped the edge of the counter. "Collapsed? What do you mean collapsed?" "She fell during class. The school nurse thinks it might be dehydration or low blood sugar, but they're taking her in as a precaution. You should meet them there." Danielle was already moving, grabbing her purse, her keys. Her co-workers looked up as she rushed past. "I'm on my way," she said, and ended the call. The drive to Mission Hospital should have taken 20 minutes. Danielle made it in 14. She parked crooked in the emergency lot and ran toward the entrance, her heart slamming against her ribs. Kids fainted sometimes. It happened. Stress from school. Not enough water. A growth spurt throwing off her blood sugar. Anything normal. Anything fixable. But when she pushed through the sliding glass doors into the emergency room, 2 police officers were waiting near the front desk. One of them stepped forward. "Danielle Rowland." She stopped. "Yes. Where's my daughter?" "She's being evaluated. We need you to come with us for a moment." "I need to see her." "Ma'am, please." The officer's voice was gentle but firm. "This way." He guided her down a hallway, away from the main waiting area. His partner followed. They led her into a small consultation room with gray walls and a table and 3 chairs. No windows. A single clock on the wall, its second hand ticking forward with mechanical precision. Danielle's knees felt weak. "What's going on?" "Please sit," the first officer said. He was older, maybe 50, with gray at his temples and tired eyes. His nameplate read Officer Brennan. "I don't want to sit. I want to see Maya." "You will. But first, we need to ask you some questions." "Questions about what?" Officer Brennan exchanged a glance with his partner, a younger woman with her hair pulled back tight. Her nameplate read Officer Ruiz. "When was the last time you saw your daughter?" Brennan asked. "This morning. Before school." "Why? What happened to her?" "And your husband? When did he last see her?" The question landed strange. Danielle frowned. "I don't know. This morning, too, I assume. He made her lunch." "He made her lunch?" Ruiz repeated, pulling out a small notebook. "Yes. He doesn't usually, but he did today. Why does that matter?" Neither officer answered. Brennan gestured to the chairs again. "Please, Mrs. Rowland, sit down." This time Danielle sat. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs. "Where's Trevor?" she asked. "Has anyone called him?" "He's here," Brennan said. Relief flooded through her. "He's here? Where?" "With Maya." "Then why am I in this room?" "I should be with them." "In a moment." Brennan pulled out a chair and sat across from her. Ruiz stayed, standing by the door. "Mrs. Rowland, Has your daughter been sick recently? Any medical conditions we should know about? No. She's healthy. She's never been sick beyond normal colds. What's wrong with her? The doctors are still running tests. Tests for what? Brennan's expression didn't change. How would you describe your relationship with your husband? The question hit like cold water. Danielle stared at him. What? Your marriage. How would you describe it? Why are you asking me this? Where's my daughter? Please answer the question. Danielle's mind raced. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Police didn't ask about marriages unless what? Unless they suspected something. Suspected someone. We're fine, she said carefully. We've been married 15 years. We're fine. No problems. No recent arguments. Nothing unusual. Danielle's voice sharpened. Why? Brennan stood. Come with me. They led her back into the hallway, past the nurse's station, past the triage area. Brennan stopped at a door with a small rectangular window set at eye level. He stepped aside. Please take a look, he said. Danielle's heart hammered. She moved forward and pressed her face close to the glass. Maya lay in a hospital bed behind the door, small and pale against white sheets. Monitors surrounded her, wires trailing from her arms. Her eyes were closed, and 4 drip fed into her left hand. And beside the bed, calm and still, stood Trevor. One hand rested on the bed rail. His face was composed, almost blank. He was talking to a woman Danielle had never seen before. Tall, blonde, younger than Danielle by at least 10 years. The woman stood close to Trevor, too close, leaning in to whisper something. Trevor nodded. Danielle's breath stopped. Who is that woman? She whispered. Officer Ruiz spoke from behind her. We believe her name is Kendra Hale. Do you know her? No. She came in with your husband. She told the staff she was a family friend. Danielle couldn't move, couldn't look away. Trevor's hand moved from the rail to the woman's shoulder. Just for a second, a brief touch, and then dropped back down. The woman smiled. Danielle's knees buckled. She stumbled back from the window. Brennan caught her arm. We need you to stay calm, he said. What's happening? Her voice broke. Why is she here? Why are you asking these questions? Brennan guided her back into the consultation room. This time Danielle didn't resist. She sank into the chair, her mind spinning. Officer Ruiz closed the door. Mrs. Rowland, the doctors found something concerning in Maya's blood work. Concerning how? Traces of prescription medication. Not enough to be life-threatening, but enough to cause the symptoms she experienced: dizziness, disorientation, collapse. Danielle's mouth went dry. Medication? What medication? We're still determining that. Does Maya take any prescriptions? No, nothing. Does anyone in your household? Trevor has something for blood pressure, and I have allergy medication. But Maya doesn't, she stopped. Her mind was catching up slowly, piece by piece. You think someone gave her something? Ruiz didn't answer directly. When your husband made Maya's lunch this morning, did you see what he packed? No. I was running late. I trusted him. The word trusted hung in the air like smoke. Brennan leaned forward. Mrs. Rowland, we're going to need you to stay here while we finish our initial investigation. A detective will be here shortly to speak with you. I need to see Maya. You will, but not yet. She's my daughter. And we need to determine what happened to her. Brennan's voice was kind but immovable. Right now, the safest thing you can do is cooperate. Danielle wanted to scream, wanted to throw the table over, shove past them, run to Maya, and never let go. But somewhere beneath the panic, a colder instinct was waking. The instinct that had kept her organized through 15 years of marriage. That made her notice small things. Remember patterns. She forced herself to breathe. "What do I need to do?" she asked quietly. "Answer our questions honestly," Ruiz said. "And wait." So Danielle waited. 20 minutes. 30. A detective arrived, a man named Garcia, mid-40s with a wedding ring and glasses. He asked the same questions Brennan had asked, but slower, more detailed. How was her marriage? Had Trevor seemed different lately? Who had access to Maya? Who made her meals? Danielle answered everything. She tried to keep her voice steady, tried not to think about the woman standing beside Trevor, whispering. Finally, Garcia closed his notebook. "We're going to ask your husband some questions, too. I need you to stay here until we're done." "How long?" "As long as it takes." He left. The door clicked shut. Danielle sat alone in the gray room with the ticking clock. Her phone buzzed, texts from work, asking if she was okay, if Maya was okay. She didn't answer them. She stared at the wall and replayed the morning in her mind. Trevor making the lunch. Trevor's flat voice. "I've got it today." The way he hadn't looked at her. And now Maya in a hospital bed, full of medication she shouldn't have taken. Danielle's hands curled into fists. She didn't cry. Not yet. Crying was for later, for when the shock wore off. Right now she needed to think. Trevor had been distant for months. Distracted. Coming home late. Spending more time on his phone. Danielle had noticed, but hadn't pushed. She told herself it was work stress, or a midlife thing. Men went through phases, but maybe it wasn't a phase. Maybe it was something else entirely. The clock ticked. Minutes became an hour. Finally, the door opened again. Officer Brennan stepped in. "You can see your daughter now." Danielle shot to her feet. "Is she okay?" "She's stable. Come with me." They walked back through the emergency room. Danielle's heart raced. Brennan pushed open the door to Maya's room and stepped aside. The woman, Kendra, was gone. Trevor sat in a chair beside the bed, his elbows on his knees, his head bowed. He looked up when Danielle entered. His expression was unreadable. Danielle ignored him. She went straight to Maya. Her daughter's eyes were open now, glazed but aware. She turned her head slowly toward Danielle. "Mom," she whispered. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Danielle took Maya's hand. It felt small and cold. "How do you feel?" "Weird. Tired." "You're going to be okay." Danielle smoothed Maya's hair back from her forehead. "The doctors are taking care of you." "What happened?" Maya's voice was thin, confused. "You fainted at school, but you're safe now." Maya's gaze drifted past Danielle toward Trevor. Something flickered in her eyes, something Danielle couldn't quite read. "Fear? Uncertainty?" "Dad," Maya said quietly. Trevor stood and moved closer, but Danielle shifted, placing herself between them. "She needs rest," Danielle said. Trevor stopped. "I'm her father." "I know." Danielle's voice was steel-wrapped in silk. "But right now she needs rest." For a moment they stared at each other. Trevor's jaw tightened. Then he stepped back. "Fine." He left the room without another word. The door swung shut behind him. Danielle exhaled slowly. She turned back to Maya, forced a smile. "Try to sleep, sweetheart. I'll be right here." Maya's eyelids drooped. Within minutes, she was asleep again, her breathing soft and even. Danielle sank into the chair Trevor had vacated. She didn't let go of Maya's hand. Outside, through the small window in the door, she could see officers talking in low voices. One of them glanced toward the room. Danielle stared back until he looked away. She didn't know what was happening yet. Didn't know what Trevor had done or why. But she knew this with absolute certainty. Whatever came next, she would not let him near Maya again. Not until she understood. Not until she knew the truth. The first night in the hospital stretched long and silent. Maya slept fitfully, waking every few hours in confusion before drifting off again. Danielle stayed in the chair beside her bed, watching the monitors, watching the door, watching everything. Trevor didn't come back. Around 3 in the morning, A nurse came in to check Maya's vitals, a woman in her 50s with gentle hands and tired eyes. She smiled at Danielle. You should try to rest too. I'm fine. There's a cot in the family room if you... I'm staying here. The nurse nodded and finished her checks. After she left, Danielle stood and stretched, her back aching from hours in the uncomfortable chair. She moved to the window and looked out at the parking lot 4 floors below. A few scattered cars, the glow of streetlights, the mountains barely visible in the dark distance. Her phone buzzed. A text from Trevor. Coming back in the morning. We need to talk. Danielle deleted it without responding. Another text appeared immediately. I know what you're thinking. You're wrong. She turned off her phone. When morning came, a doctor arrived, a woman named Dr. Patel, young and precise, with dark eyes that missed nothing. She examined Maya carefully, asked questions about her symptoms, and then gestured for Danielle to step into the hallway. How is she? Danielle asked immediately. Stable. The medication is clearing her system. Dr. Patel paused, choosing her words. I understand the police have been asking questions. Yes. Mrs. Rowland, I need to be frank with you. The medication Maya ingested is consistent with the blood pressure medication prescribed to your husband. Losartan, a beta blocker. It's not typically dangerous in small amounts, especially to someone Maya's age, but it can cause dizziness, disorientation, and fainting. In higher doses, it could be much more serious. Danielle's chest tightened. How much did she have? Enough to cause her symptoms, but not enough to suggest an accidental overdose. It appears someone calculated the amount carefully. Calculated? Yes. Dr. Patel met her eyes. Mrs. Rowland, someone gave this to your daughter intentionally. The words landed like stones. Danielle leaned back against the wall, her legs unsteady. Who would? She couldn't finish. Couldn't say it out loud. That's for the police to determine, Dr. Patel said gently. But I wanted you to understand what we're dealing with. Maya will make a full recovery, but this was not an accident. Danielle nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me. Dr. Patel hesitated, then touched Danielle's arm briefly. A social worker will be by later today. She'll want to talk with both you and Maya. It's standard procedure in cases like this. Cases like what? Suspected child abuse. The air seemed to vanish from the hallway. Danielle stared at her. Abuse. I'm sorry. I know this is overwhelming, but we have protocols. If there's any indication... I understand. Danielle straightened. Do what you need to do. Dr. Patel squeezed her arm once more and walked away. Danielle stood in the empty hallway for a long time. Around her, the hospital moved with its usual rhythm. Nurses hurrying past, machines beeping, the distant sound of a television from another room. Normal life, ordinary chaos, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. When she returned to Maya's room, her daughter was awake, staring at the ceiling. Hey, Danielle said softly. Maya turned her head. Is Dad here? Not yet. Something passed over Maya's face, relief maybe. Or was it fear? Danielle couldn't tell. She sat down beside the bed and took Maya's hand again. Sweetheart, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Yesterday morning, when Dad made your lunch, did he give you anything else? Anything to drink or any medicine? Maya frowned. He made me drink some juice. Juice? Yeah, orange juice. He said I looked pale and I should drink it before school. Maya's eyes widened slightly. He got really mad when I didn't want to finish it. Danielle's blood turned to ice. Mad how? He looked at me weird, like he was angry. I finished it because I didn't want him to yell. Did he yell? No, but he looked like he wanted to. Danielle forced herself to stay calm, to keep her voice even. Did the juice taste normal? Maya thought about it. Kind of bitter. But orange juice is bitter sometimes, right? Sometimes. Danielle smoothed Maya's hair. You didn't do anything wrong, okay? None of this is your fault. What's happening, Mom? Why am I here? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Before Maya could respond, the door opened. Detective Garcia stepped in, followed by a woman in plain clothes, mid-30s, dark hair pulled into a professional bun, carrying a briefcase. She had a kind face, but serious eyes. Mrs. Rowland, I'm Detective Linda Reeves, the woman said. We spoke briefly yesterday. Danielle didn't remember, but she nodded anyway. I'd like to ask Maya a few questions, if that's all right, Reeves continued. With you present, of course. Danielle looked at Maya, who seemed small and uncertain in the big hospital bed. Is it all right if this detective asks you some questions, honey? Maya nodded hesitantly. Reeves pulled a chair close and sat down. Her voice was warm, almost maternal. Maya, I'm just trying to understand what happened yesterday. Can you tell me about your morning? Starting from when you woke up. Okay. Maya glanced at Danielle, who nodded encouragingly. I woke up around 7. Mom came in and told me Dad made my lunch. That was weird because Mom always does that. What happened next? I got dressed and went to the kitchen. Dad was there. He told me to drink the orange juice before school. Did he say why? He said I looked pale. And did you drink it? Most of it, not all of it. Reeves wrote something in her notebook. How did you feel after drinking it? Normal at first, but then on the bus I started feeling dizzy, like everything was spinning. Did you tell anyone? I told my friend Aisha. She said maybe I was getting sick. And then what happened? Maya's voice got smaller. I was in history class. Mrs. Patterson was talking about the Civil War. I remember that. And then everything got really bright and loud. And then I woke up here. Reeves nodded gently. You're doing great, Maya. Just a couple more questions. Did your dad do anything else unusual yesterday morning? Anything that stood out? Maya thought about it. He kept checking his phone. Like a lot. And he seemed, I don't know, like he was waiting for something. Waiting for what? I don't know. He just kept looking at his watch and his phone. Reeves made another note. Okay. Thank you, Maya. You've been very helpful. She stood and gestured for Danielle to follow her into the hallway. Garcia came too. The three of them stood near the nurse's station, speaking in low voices. Mrs. Rowland, we've obtained your husband's phone records and text messages, Garcia said, with a warrant. I want to be clear about what we're seeing. Danielle's hands were shaking. She folded her arms to hide it. Tell me. Garcia pulled out his own phone and showed her a screenshot. Text messages between Trevor and an unsaved number. Danielle leaned in, reading. Trevor, if she's impaired, custody will be easier. Unknown, are you sure this is the right way? Trevor, doctors can't prove intent if the dose is low. Unknown, what about D? Trevor, she'll be too focused on Maya to fight me. Danielle felt like she'd been punched. She read the messages again, then again, her brain refusing to process what she was seeing. The unknown number belongs to Kendra Hale, Reeves said quietly. The woman you saw with your husband yesterday. Who is she? We're still gathering information, but based on other messages, it appears she and your husband have been involved for approximately 8 months. 8 months, almost a year. While Danielle had been packing lunches and managing appointments and trying to keep their family running smoothly, Trevor had been. Why? Danielle's voice cracked. Why would he do this to Maya? Garcia's expression was grim. From what we can piece together, your husband wanted to change the custody arrangement. Based on these messages, it appears he believed that if Maya was perceived as having developmental or neurological issues, he could argue for a different living arrangement. He wanted custody. Danielle stared at him in disbelief. We're not divorced. We're not even separated. No, but we found paperwork in his car. Divorce filings not yet submitted. And insurance documents. Insurance. Reeves pulled out another document from her briefcase. 2 weeks ago, your husband took out a disability policy on Maya. $500,000 if she becomes permanently disabled. The world tilted. Danielle grabbed the edge of the nurse's station. He was going to. We don't believe he intended to kill her, Garcia said quickly. The dose was carefully measured. Too small to be life-threatening, but enough to cause symptoms that might suggest neurological problems. If Maya had continued experiencing these symptoms, if doctors couldn't find a clear cause, your husband could have argued she needed specialized care. Care that you couldn't provide. And then he'd get custody, Danielle whispered, and collect the insurance if she got worse. That's our theory. Danielle's mind reeled. She thought about the last year, Trevor's distance, his complaints about money, his accusations that she focused too much on Maya, not enough on him. She'd thought it was frustration, midlife restlessness. She'd thought wrong. What happens now? She asked. We're bringing your husband in for questioning, Garcia said. Based on the evidence, we have enough for an arrest. For what? Felony child abuse, poisoning, insurance fraud, possibly attempted kidnapping, depending on how the district attorney wants to charge it. Danielle closed her eyes. Behind her eyelids, she saw Trevor's face that morning. The careful way he'd made Maya's lunch, the flatness in his voice when he said, I've got it today. He'd planned this, calculated it, not in a moment of rage or panic, but carefully, methodically. She opened her eyes. I want to press charges. We'll need a formal statement, Reeves said. But yes, we're proceeding with or without your cooperation, based on the evidence. But it helps if you're willing to testify. I'll do whatever you need. Garcia nodded. Good. An officer will stay outside Maya's room until we have your husband in custody. Just as a precaution. You think he'd come here? We don't think so, but we're not taking chances. They left her standing in the hallway. Danielle watched them walk away, her whole body numb. She needed to call someone. Her sister, her parents, work. She needed to do something, say something, move. But she couldn't. She just stood there, staring at the pattern in the linoleum tile, trying to understand how her life had fractured so completely in less than 24 hours. A hand touched her shoulder. Danielle jumped. It was the nurse from last night, the one who'd checked on Maya. Her expression was full of sympathy. Come sit down, she said gently. You look like you're about to fall over. I'm fine. You're not. Come on. The nurse guided her to a small waiting area with plastic chairs and outdated magazines. Danielle sat. The nurse brought her a cup of water. Drink, she said. Danielle drank. The water was cold and tasteless and real. I've been a nurse for 30 years, the woman said, sitting beside her. I've seen a lot of things. Things that don't make sense. Things that make you question how anyone could hurt a child. She paused. But I've also seen mothers like you. Strong ones. The kind who hold it together even when everything's falling apart. Danielle looked at her. I don't feel strong. You are. You're here. You're fighting. That's what matters. Danielle wanted to believe her, wanted to feel strong, but right now she just felt hollow. The nurse patted her hand and stood. Your daughter needs you. That's your focus now. Everything else will sort itself out. She walked away, leaving Danielle alone in the waiting area. Danielle finished the water and went back to Maya's room. Her daughter was asleep again, her face peaceful in the morning light coming through the window. The officer Garcia had mentioned stood outside the door, arms folded, watching. Danielle sat back down in her chair and took Maya's hand. She didn't cry. Not yet. There would be time for that later. Right now, she needed to think. to plan, to figure out what came next. Because whatever happened, she was going to make sure Trevor never got close to Maya again. Never. The social worker came in the afternoon. A woman named Janet Morris, older, with gray-streaked hair and a folder full of forms. She asked questions gently but thoroughly, taking notes as Danielle explained the timeline, the lunch, the hospital, the police. Janet's face remained neutral throughout, professional, but Danielle could see the flicker of anger in her eyes. Maya will need therapy, Janet said when they finished. This kind of betrayal, especially from a parent, can have long-term effects. I'll get her whatever she needs. And you should consider therapy for yourself as well. Danielle nodded, though she couldn't imagine sitting in a room talking about her feelings right now. Later, maybe, when she could breathe without feeling like her chest was collapsing. Janet stayed for an hour, talking with Maya too, gentle and patient. Maya answered questions, haltingly, her voice small, but she didn't cry. Danielle was grateful for that. She didn't want Maya to see how close she was to breaking. When Janet left, she squeezed Danielle's shoulder. You're doing the right thing. Don't doubt that. I'm not doubting it. Good, because a lot of people do. They second-guess themselves. They wonder if they're overreacting. But you're not. What happened to Maya was deliberate, calculated. You need to remember that. Danielle nodded. She would remember. She would never forget. That evening, Detective Garcia returned. We've arrested Trevor Rowland, he said. At your home. He was packing a suitcase when we arrived. Was he alone? No. Kendra Hale was there. We took her into custody as well. Something sharp twisted in Danielle's chest. Where are they now? County jail. They'll be arraigned tomorrow morning. What's going to happen to them? That depends on a lot of factors. The evidence, their lawyers, the judge. But based on what we have, I'd say your husband is looking at significant prison time. How much? Hard to say, but felony child abuse alone carries a mandatory minimum. Add in the poisoning and fraud charges, and we're talking years, not months. Years. Danielle tried to imagine Trevor behind bars, tried to feel something, anger, satisfaction, anything. But all she felt was tired. What about her? She asked. Kendra. She's cooperating. Gave a statement implicating your husband in exchange for reduced charges. So she walks? Not exactly. She knew what he was planning and didn't report it. That makes her complicit. But her cooperation helps our case, so the DA is willing to negotiate. Danielle nodded slowly. She should have been angrier about that. Should have wanted them both to burn. But right now, she just wanted it to be over. Garcia shifted his weight. Mrs. Rowland, there's something else you should know. We've been looking into your husband's finances. He's been in significant debt for over a year. Credit cards, personal loans, gambling losses. He's been hiding it from you. Gambling. Danielle remembered Trevor staying up late on his laptop, doors closed. She'd thought he was working. How much debt? She asked. Close to $80,000. The number hung in the air. Danielle did quick math in her head. Their mortgage, their savings, Maya's college fund. If Trevor had been hiding that much debt, they were probably broke. Worse than broke. He was desperate, Garcia said. That's why he took out the policy on Maya. He needed money, and he needed a way out of the marriage without losing custody. Because custody means child support. Exactly. Danielle laughed, a short, bitter sound. So this was about money. Partly. But the messages suggest it was also about control. He felt trapped, blamed you for his problems. Garcia's voice softened. None of this is your fault, Mrs. Rowland. I know. But did she? Part of her wondered what she'd missed, what signs she'd ignored. Part of her still felt like she should have seen this coming. Garcia left her with his card and a promise to keep her updated. Night fell. The hospital quieted. Danielle sat in the dark room beside Maya's bed, watching her daughter sleep. Tomorrow, Trevor would stand in front of a judge. Tomorrow, the legal machinery would start grinding. Tomorrow, Danielle would have to figure out how to rebuild their lives from this wreckage. But tonight she just sat, held Maya's hand, and waited for the sun. Trevor's arraignment happened on a Thursday morning. Danielle didn't attend. She stayed at the hospital with Maya, who was being discharged that afternoon. Detective Garcia called afterward with an update. No bail, he said. Judge deemed him a flight risk. Good. The DA is moving forward with all charges. Trial's probably 6 to 8 months out. 6 to 8 months. Danielle tried to imagine living in this strange limbo that long. Her husband in jail, her daughter traumatized, their life suspended between before and after. What do I need to do? She asked. For now, focus on Maya. We'll call you when we need you. Maya came home that afternoon with a list of medications and follow-up appointments. She was quiet during the drive, staring out the window at the familiar streets. When they pulled into their driveway, she didn't move. I don't want to go inside, she said softly. Danielle understood. The house felt different now. Contaminated. Trevor's presence lingered in every room. His coffee mug, his jacket, his shoes by the door. We won't stay long, Danielle promised. Just pack some things. We're going to stay with your grandparents for a while. That seemed to help. Maya unbuckled her seatbelt and followed Danielle inside. The house was exactly as they'd left it Tuesday morning. Breakfast dishes still in the sink. Maya's backpack by the door. Trevor's laptop on the kitchen table. Danielle walked through slowly, seeing everything with new eyes. The calendar on the fridge where she'd written Maya's dentist appointment. The family photo from last Christmas, all 3 of them smiling. The life they'd built now hollow and false. She helped Maya pack clothes and books and her favorite stuffed animal, a worn elephant named Buttons. Then she packed her own things, moving quickly, not wanting to linger. As she zipped her suitcase, she heard Maya in the bathroom across the hall. Not crying, but making soft, hurt sounds. Danielle went to her. Maya stood in front of the mirror, staring at her own reflection. I can't tell, she said when Danielle appeared behind her. Can't tell what, honey? If I'm different, I feel like I should look different, like people should be able to see it. Danielle put her hands on Maya's shoulders. You're the same person you've always been. What happened to you doesn't change who you are, but it changes everything else. Yes, it does. They stood there together, 2 figures in the mirror, and Danielle saw it, the way Maya's eyes had hardened just slightly, the way her jaw set. She was growing up too fast, learning lessons no 13-year-old should have to learn. They left the house 20 minutes later. Danielle locked the door and didn't look back. Her parents lived 40 minutes away, in a smaller town nestled closer to the mountains. They'd offered immediately when Danielle called. Come home. Stay as long as you need. Her mother had cried on the phone. Her father had been silent, which was worse. When they arrived, her mother Grace was waiting on the porch. She pulled Maya into a tight hug, then Danielle. No words, just holding. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon and coffee. Danielle's childhood bedroom had been converted into a guest room years ago, but her mother had put fresh flowers on the nightstand. Small gestures, small kindnesses. That night, after Maya went to bed, Danielle sat in the kitchen with her parents. Her father, James, made tea, the strong, bitter kind he always drank. They sat around the old wooden table in silence for a long time. Finally, James spoke. I never liked him. James, Grace said softly. No, I'm not going to pretend now. I never liked him. Too smooth, too careful, always had an answer for everything. Danielle stared into her tea. I should have seen it. How? Her mother asked. How were you supposed to know? There were signs. He was distant, secretive. I made excuses. Told myself it was stress. That's not your fault, James said firmly. He's a grown man who made his own choices. You didn't put those pills in Maya's juice. He did. But I let him make her lunch that morning. Because you trusted him. Because that's what you do in a marriage. You trust. Grace reached across the table and took Danielle's hand. You did nothing wrong, sweetheart. Nothing. Danielle wanted to believe them, but the guilt sat heavy in her chest, immovable. What happens now? Her mother asked. Trial. Eventually. 6 months, maybe more. And then, I don't know. Danielle had been avoiding thinking about the long-term future. Divorce. Selling the house. Starting over. It all felt impossible. One day at a time, I guess. James nodded. That's all you can do. They finished their tea in silence. Danielle went to check on Maya before bed and found her awake, staring at the ceiling. Can't sleep? Danielle asked. Keep thinking about things. Danielle sat on the edge of the bed. What things? Like, was Dad always like this? Was he always planning to hurt me? The question cut deep. Danielle chose her words carefully. I don't think so. I think something changed in him. Or maybe something was always there, hidden. I don't know, honey. I wish I had better answers. Do you hate him? Danielle considered that. Hate felt too simple. What she felt was more complicated. Rage and betrayal and grief all tangled together. But Maya didn't need complicated right now. I hate what he did, she said. I hate that he hurt you. But what I feel about him doesn't matter as much as what you feel. And whatever you feel, anger, sadness, confusion, all of it is okay. I don't know what I feel, Maya whispered. That's okay too. They sat together in the dark. Eventually, Maya's breathing slowed. Danielle waited until she was sure her daughter was asleep before returning to her own room. She didn't sleep that night, just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in her mind, looking for the moment it all went wrong, looking for the thing she should have noticed, the warning she should have heeded. But there was no single moment, just a slow accumulation of small lies, small betrayals, building towards something unthinkable. The weeks that followed blurred together. Maya started therapy twice a week with a woman named Dr. Yates, who specialized in childhood trauma. Danielle drove her there and waited in the lobby, reading magazines she didn't absorb. Sometimes Maya came out with red eyes. Sometimes she seemed lighter. Danielle started her own therapy more reluctantly. The therapist, an older man named Dr. Simmons, listened more than he talked. He asked about her marriage, her childhood, her relationship with trust. Danielle answered mechanically, going through the motions. You're angry, Dr. Simmons observed one session. Of course I'm angry. But you're holding it in, controlling it. What am I supposed to do? Scream. If that's what you need. But Danielle didn't scream. She stayed composed, organized, dealt with the lawyers and the bills and the insurance calls. Trevor's debt turned out to be worse than Garcia had said, almost $100,000. Their house was mortgaged to the edge of foreclosure. Danielle had to hire a financial advisor just to untangle the mess. The divorce proceedings started 2 months after Trevor's arrest. He filed from jail, citing irreconcilable differences. Danielle would have laughed if she weren't so exhausted. Through her lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Chin, she filed counterclaims for sole custody, restraining orders, and full financial disclosure. Trevor's lawyer tried to negotiate, wanted shared custody, visitation rights. Danielle's response was one word: no. He poisoned her, she told Patricia. He'll never see her again if I have anything to say about it. We'll fight for that, Patricia assured her. But be prepared. Judges sometimes push for parental access, even in cases like this. Not this case. Not with the criminal charges. Patricia nodded. You're probably right. But stay strong. This is going to be a long process. Long didn't begin to describe it. Depositions, interrogatories, financial disclosures. Danielle spent hours answering questions about her marriage, her knowledge of Trevor's affairs, her parenting. Every intimate detail of her life, picked apart and examined. She endured it all without breaking. In March, Kendra Hale testified before a grand jury. Danielle watched her on the local news, blonde hair perfect, face carefully neutral. She described Trevor's plan in clinical terms, how he'd researched medication dosages, how he'd bought the insurance policy, how he'd convinced her it wasn't dangerous. I thought he just wanted to make his daughter sick enough to seem troubled, Kendra said on the stand. I didn't think he'd actually hurt her. Danielle turned off the television before the interview ended. She didn't need to hear more. Kendra pled guilty to conspiracy and obstruction of justice. She got 3 years probation and community service. No jail time. Danielle didn't react when she heard, just added it to the growing list of things that didn't matter anymore. What mattered was Maya, and Maya was healing slowly. She started eating normal meals again, started laughing at stupid videos on her phone, started talking about school and friends and normal teenage things. One evening in April, 6 months after that terrible Tuesday, Maya came into the kitchen where Danielle was making dinner. I talked about Dad in therapy today, she said. Danielle set down the knife she'd been using to chop vegetables. Yeah. Dr. Yates asked if I wanted to see him. Before the trial, Danielle's heart clenched. What did you say? I said no. Maya's voice was firm, clear. I don't need to see him. I don't need him to apologize or explain. I just need him to be gone. Danielle pulled her daughter into a hug. I'm proud of you. For what? For knowing what you need. For being strong enough to say it. Maya hugged her back tight. I learned from you. They stood there in the kitchen, holding each other, and for the first time in months, Danielle felt something other than numbness. Hope, maybe. Or just the absence of despair. It was enough. The trial started in June. Summer, heat pressed down on the courthouse, thick and oppressive. Danielle testified on the second day, dressed in a navy suit Patricia had helped her pick out. Professional, composed. She answered every question clearly without emotion. Described the morning Trevor made the lunch. Described finding Maya in the hospital. Described the moment she saw Kendra whispering in Trevor's ear. Trevor's lawyer tried to rattle her during cross-examination. Suggested she'd been negligent. Suggested she'd known about the affair and was exaggerating Trevor's actions out of revenge. Danielle met his eyes without flinching. I loved my husband for 15 years. I trusted him completely. He violated that trust in the worst possible way. This isn't about revenge. This is about protecting my daughter from a man who calculated how much medication he could give her without killing her. That's not a father. That's a predator. The jury listened in silence. Maya didn't testify. The judge ruled she was too young, too traumatized. Instead, they played a video deposition where Maya described that morning, the juice her father's anger, the way everything went bright and loud before she collapsed. Trevor watched the video without expression. Danielle sat in the gallery and watched him. He looked thinner than she remembered, older. His hands were folded on the table in front of him, perfectly still. She felt nothing looking at him. No anger, no grief, just a cold, empty distance. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. The phone records, the insurance policy, the medication levels in Maya's blood, Trevor's debts. They called pharmacists who explained how beta blockers worked. Called teachers who described Maya's collapse. Called Dr. Patel who explained the calculated nature of the dose. Trevor's defense tried to argue it was an accident, that he'd been taking his own medication that morning, and somehow it got mixed into Maya's juice. That he was guilty of negligence, at most not attempted harm. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the foreman read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Felony child abuse. Poisoning. Insurance fraud. Trevor closed his eyes. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder. Danielle felt her mother's hand squeeze hers. Beside her, Maya sat very still. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Danielle attended alone. Maya had said she didn't want to be there, and Danielle respected that. Trevor wore an orange jumpsuit. His hair was grayer than she remembered. He stood when the judge entered, his face blank. Judge Morrison was a stern woman in her 60s with no patience for theatrics. She reviewed the charges, the evidence, the testimony. Then she looked directly at Trevor. "Mr. Rowland, you held your daughter's life in your hands and chose to poison her for financial gain. You calculated dosages. You researched symptoms. You planned and executed a scheme that could have killed her. That it didn't was luck, not mercy." She paused. "This court recognizes no mitigating factors. You were her father. You had a duty to protect her. You failed that duty in the most fundamental way possible." She sentenced him to 12 years in state prison. No parole eligibility for 8. Trevor stood motionless as guards led him away. He didn't look at Danielle as he passed. She left the courthouse and drove to her parents' house where Maya was waiting. When she walked in, Maya looked up from the couch. "How long?" she asked. 12 years. Maya absorbed this silently. Then she nodded. "Good." That night, after Maya went to bed, Danielle sat on her parents' back porch with a glass of wine. Her father joined her, bringing his own drink. "You did it," he said. "Did what?" "Protected her. Fought for her. Won." "I didn't do it alone." "No, but you could have given up. You could have accepted a plea deal. Let him off easy. You didn't." Danielle sipped her wine. "He poisoned our daughter. There was no universe where I let that go." James nodded. They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies blink in the darkening yard. "What now?" he asked eventually. "Forward." Danielle set down her glass. "I sell the house. Pay off what debts I can. Find us a small apartment. Maya finishes middle school, starts high school. Life continues." You make it sound simple. It's not, but the alternative is staying stuck in this moment forever, and I refuse to do that. Her father smiled slightly. "You're tougher than I gave you credit for." "I had to be." They finished their drinks as night fell. Inside, Danielle could hear her mother humming while she cleaned up the kitchen. Normal sounds, normal life continuing despite everything. Danielle went to check on Maya one more time before bed. Found her daughter awake, scrolling through her phone. "You should be sleeping," Danielle said softly. "I know. Maya set her phone down. "I keep thinking about what you said before. About Dad choosing who he became." "Yeah. Do you really think that? That people choose?" Danielle sat on the edge of the bed. It was a complicated question. She thought about Trevor, the man she'd married, the man who'd made her laugh, who'd held Maya when she was born, who'd seemed normal and decent and kind. And then the man who'd calculated medication dosages, who'd taken out insurance policies, who'd put poison in their daughter's juice. Were they the same person, or had something broken along the way? "I think," Danielle said slowly, "that people face choices every day. Small ones, big ones. And those choices shape who we become. Dad faced a choice. He could have talked to me about his problems, his debt, his unhappiness. He could have been honest. Instead, he chose to lie, to scheme, to hurt you." She touched Maya's hand. "So yes, I think he chose. And now he lives with those choices. What about us? What do we choose?" "We choose to move forward, to heal, to build something new and better. Does it stop hurting eventually?" "I don't know, honey. I think maybe it just hurts differently. Less sharp, more distant." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "I don't want to hate him forever." "You don't have to. But I don't want to forgive him either." "You don't have to do that either. There's space in between. Space to just let him be gone from our lives." "Yeah." Maya's voice was small. "That's what I want. For him to just be gone. Then that's what we'll do. Danielle kissed her daughter's forehead and stood to leave. Mom. Maya said, Yeah. Thank you. For fighting for me. Always, Danielle said. Every single time. She left Maya's room and walked slowly through her parents' quiet house to her own room. She got ready for bed mechanically, brushing teeth, washing face, pulling on old pajamas. When she finally lay down, she expected sleep to evade her the way it had for months. But it didn't. She closed her eyes and drifted off almost immediately, dreamless and deep. 3 months later, Danielle signed the final divorce papers at Patricia's office. The house had sold for less than they owed, but Patricia had negotiated with the bank to forgive the difference. Trevor's debts were declared his alone. Danielle walked away legally responsible for nothing except rebuilding. She found a small apartment in Asheville, close to her work, in a decent school district. 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, a balcony overlooking a parking lot. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Safe, clean, unpoisoned. Maya started 8th grade that fall. She made new friends, joined the drama club, started smiling more often than not. Danielle kept going to therapy, kept working, kept moving forward. One evening in October, exactly 1 year after that terrible Tuesday, Danielle and Maya sat on their small balcony, watching the sun set over the mountains. They'd made spaghetti for dinner, Maya's favorite. The dishes waited in the sink. Everything could wait. We made it, Maya said quietly. Yeah, we did. It doesn't feel how I thought it would. How did you think it would feel? I don't know. Triumphant, maybe. Like we'd won something big. And instead, just normal. Like this is just life now. Danielle looked at her daughter, taller than last year, older, changed in ways both visible and invisible. That's the best kind of winning. When you don't have to think about it anymore. When you just get to live. Maya smiled. I like that. They sat together as darkness fell. Inside the apartment, the phone rang, probably Danielle's mother, calling to check in. She'd call back later. Right now, she just wanted to sit here with her daughter, in their small, safe space, breathing freely. Trevor was gone. Not dead, not forgotten, but gone from their lives in any way that mattered. He would spend the next 8 years behind bars, and then 8 more after that. By the time he got out, Maya would be 31. A whole life lived without him. Danielle didn't forgive him. She never would. Forgiveness was for people who earned it, and he had earned nothing but her permanent absence from his life. But she didn't need revenge either. The truth had done its work. The system, for once, had functioned. Justice, imperfect but real, had been served. What she needed now was what she already had. This quiet apartment, this healing daughter, this hard-won peace. Maya leaned against her shoulder. Danielle put her arm around her. I love you, Mom, Maya said. I love you too, sweetheart. They stayed there until full dark, 2 figures silhouetted against the city lights, rebuilding something quieter and stronger than before. Something unbreakable, something theirs alone. The truth had done its work, and now, finally, they could rest.